So what is leadership? I like to say that leadership is about more than a title. It reflects experience, intelligence, an understanding of the business landscape, and also of human nature. But of course, in the 21st century, with the diversity that now is America and our global environment, leadership requires something more expansive. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that we need the whole society to give the symmetry that we seek. You know, you may know Emerson's story. When he looked into a crowd, he saw not a crowd, but a collection of individuals. He saw each person as limited and diverse in what and how they perceive things. Now, our business leaders of color today understand this. They understand that if your actions, as John Quincy Adams said, if your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more and become more, then in today's diverse world, you are a leader. It's not easy to be awarded, to be named a business leader of color. These folks up here join the likes of Don Thompson, the CEO of McDonald's, Melody Hobson, the president of Ariel Investments, Alwyn Lewis, the CEO of Potbelly, formerly CEO of Sears, and of course, our First Lady, Michelle Obama, and many, many others. So they are truly an extraordinary bunch. I'm going to tell you just briefly about them. We'll start with, if this is a dream team, he is the center because you see how tall he was when he came up? Mr. John Trainer was named the general manager of Tribune's OI newspaper to oversee the publication's editorial, circulation, operations, sales, the whole gamut. He's not only become the leading player in Chicago, that is, OI has not only become the leading player in Chicago, but also the largest circulating Spanish language daily newspaper in the nation. To John's right is Sonny Garg. Sonny is Senior Vice President and Chief Information and Innovation Officer for the Exelon Corporation, where he's responsible for managing all aspects of IT and telecom across the corporation, but he also focuses on collaboration and innovation. Next to Sonny is my dear friend, Anna Dutra, who is CEO of Mandala Global Advisors. This is a newly formed venture for Anna. Many of you have known her as the CEO of Korn Ferry's Leadership and Talent Consulting team, or business rather, where she headed up for a good 6 years or so. And of course, last but not least is Kathy Payne. Kathy is the Chief Business Development Officer for Ethertronics, a global leading embedded antenna provider for the mobile phone, computing, and wireless and devices markets.
So the choices are complain about what's happening, what is about to happen, observe it and choose a safe way, or make it happen. And great leaders do make it happen. They will spot the opportunities, they will understand what are the emerging needs or the emerging situations and how their skills, their capabilities can be leveraged there, and then they put themselves front and center.
I mentor that hasn't changed in over 100 years, right? I often joke, and I left my iPhone on the table, but if you brought back Alexander Graham Bell today and you showed him the iPhone, he'd have no idea what it is. If you brought back Thomas Edison today, he could get a job at ComEd. He could probably run ComEd still. It's changed that little, right? So it's a great place to be because we're in this transition area. So we have a lot of people who are resisting that change, a lot of people who aren't willing to make the change. And so if you're willing to step forward and say, look, I embrace it, I'm willing to try to navigate and help us through this ambiguity, it's just created unbelievable opportunities. I mean, most people are quite afraid when they see what I've done at Exelon, because I really shouldn't be doing those roles. But it has been because of just a willingness to say, I'll try it, I'll go do it, and let's try it differently. And so that's why it's been a good.
So I came in as a former entrepreneur and kind of like with now a corporate innovation mindset. And it's just been breaking it in pieces and making people understand pieces of it little by little, so that ideas start becoming part of the team, and then have people accept the changes and understanding some things are very basic. The product, I believe, smarter, and as a result, our circulation started growing. And then we became the largest circulation Spanish language newspaper in the country.
That came as a result?
Came as a result, but it wasn't the goal. Okay. The goal was to transition to digital and expand the life of print as much as we can. And that expanding the life of print as much as we can kept growing. So it's been an interesting ride, I tell you.
With the globalization, most people think the barrier going to a different country, different culture is the language. Actually, that's not. The most important part is the mindset. So if you have the right mindset, you will not have any problem going to any countries or any cultures. So it's wonderful to see you all here. With the social media, I mean, you're all familiar with the 6 degrees of separation. I guarantee you, within 3 steps, all of us can connect to any president, from government, from companies, from any practices. So making connections is very, very key. It's, we hire the right people. It's not just hire people locally can speak your language or you like. It's really the person in the other country have credibility. I thought it's a perfect fit. They will need us, but they were not interested at all. They just don't value IP. Chinese companies don't value IP. That's the American CEO's conclusion. Now, I'm hearing this Chinese president, what he told me. He said, Kathy, after a few minutes of talking, I was not interested at all. I said, why? Look at the key leaders they hired. They cannot even hire the right leaders. Why am I interested to acquire them? I said, do you know what the technology they have to help you? No, I was not even interested to talk further. Look at how big the mismatch there.
Breadth is probably more important than depth in one niche only. Because if you limit yourself to one niche of people, whether it is industry-based or ethnicity-based or geography-based, you are missing how you can add value and trade off opportunities with people who are seeing the world in a completely different way. And from a business perspective, there is a lot of value that can be unleashed by doing just that. There's an old story about 5 blind people touching different parts of an elephant and being asked to describe what the elephant looks like based on the parts that they're touching, and they come up with completely different animals. If we translate that to business and think about 5 people from completely different backgrounds, areas of expertise, cultures, personalities, motives, values, you add to it, looking at the same business, product, service, or opportunity, and describing their vision for that business, you are also going to see, very likely, 5 different visions. Not necessarily opposing visions, but additive visions. So that's how I think we missed the boat when we make the diversity and inclusion case to businesses by limiting ourselves just, oh, we need different people. No, we need different points of view. We need different ways to see things. We need different takes on opportunities, and that will come from different geographies, different backgrounds, different leadership styles, And that's what, at the end of the day, propels innovation.
And a person came in who was, had the perfect credentials. He came back. He didn't speak Spanish. We had an interview in Spanish. He learned Spanish in 3 months. He really wanted the job. And he brought in a different point of view to the team that then help our team see things in a different way. So he trained other reporters to use databases. He trained other reporters to apply FOIA well. And actually took our organization to the next level. We won an IRE thanks to some of the work that he did. So it was very important because, as you said, we were all looking at the same issues with a very similar culture. And having somebody come in that had a different point of view make us better.
So it's a great question, and it's I hadn't thought about the intersection between the idea of innovation and diversity as much until we started talking, and they're both about culture, right? And at the end of the day, as Peter Drucker said, culture will eat strategy any day. But more importantly, both of them are about challenging the status quo of the culture, right? Innovation is about doing things differently. Same thing with diversity and inclusion. It's about doing things differently. So they really are kind of hand in hand. They go together very tightly. The issue is, as we all know, there's a reason the status quo exists. There's a reason that we do the things that we do. There's a reason the culture of the organization is what it is. And generally, it's the reward and recognition system. It's the way that people have been rewarded and are incented. And so you really have to look at that. That's what produces the outcome. I mean, there's so many, organizations you go into and, well, I don't know why we're not more innovative. Okay, when was the last time you let somebody fail? When was the last time you let somebody take a risk and not succeed? And in most big organizations, at least, they don't, right? So you have to be willing to change and have the leadership take on the status quo. And it's the shadow of the leader idea. And if the leadership is not taking on the change, it's not going to work with me. So some of it is, how do you spend your time? Whether we want to or not, people are watching us as leaders. And if we're spending our time 90% of the time managing the day-to-day operations and then 10% doing other things, they know that you're not spending your time on innovation or on diversity and inclusion, and they're not going to spend their time on it. I mean, it's that clear, and they know what you do. You may not.
Coaching some executives from Wrigley and GM, they do some cross-leaders exchange program, which I think is awesome. So they send the leaders to the region, which everybody thinks is the right thing to do, right? But they also bring the leaders from the region to the headquarters. So when all decisions made in headquarters, at least they have the regional experts in the headquarters to influence all the decision makers. So I think that's a very good point, because otherwise you see it in Chicago, you think, what is the right thing to do in France or in China, in any countries? But what's really happening in that market? You need to read the knowledge, not just information. That's why I have those cross-leader exchange.
Just put it in practice. So my leadership team needs to be a diverse team. It needs to send a clear signal. So we have in IT 11 vice presidents, 5 are either women or people of color, right? So we're saying and very clearly showing that that's who we're going to be. You can't just talk about it, we're going to go do it. The second thing is, they have to know that all the leadership and then the next layer down and the next layer down, it's part of how you evaluate people on it. We don't drive it. It's not tied. And unless you show people that you're going to make it part of how you evaluate them, it's part of how people get promoted. And if you don't live up to those, you're not going to vice presidents, and they have to sponsor somebody that's of a different race or ethnicity or a different gender, and they're going to be tied to their success. So you have to do it intentionally, because otherwise it's going to be the person I play tennis with or the person I like to drink red wine with. It's a person who's same as me. So you have to build it in and make it intentional.
It's not about measure individual progress. It is about measuring the whole conversation from an emotional and political tone and into a business tone. And at the end of the day, whose business here does not want to grow independently of whether the composition is going to be A, B, or C? The truth of the matter is that the more diverse businesses are, the more likelihood, the higher the likelihood that there will be more innovation, there will be better performance, and there will be growth. But we need to articulate that. And the only way to articulate that is, first, establish the metrics, set the metrics, then measure, and then communicate. That's how we create a culture of diversity.